That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Look at those little craters. This is a narrow-angle camera view, and the scale on that is approximately 50 miles, about 50 miles across the picture. And so that means we're seeing craters there, the smallest of which cannot be much more than a mile or two in diameter. Would you say so, Brad?
Perhaps even smaller than that. So this is as good as the very best telescopic views of the moon.
Yes, I think that's, oh yes.
True. Anything surprising in them?
Okay. The numbers are very pleasing to us. It gives us a lot of things to count, to study, and a lot of clues as to what's happening on Mars. Of course, the absence of craters would have been interesting too, but it would tell us a different thing. Isn't that amazing? Look at that.
Must be similar in some ways.
This is picture 21, a red picture, wide-angle picture, fantastic picture. Look at that big thing at the bottom. There are small craters there, clearly. There are small craters that are only a fraction of a mile. I can see several that are only a tiny part of a mile in size. You see a contrast between an old crater, an obviously old crater at the upper part of the center part of the picture, and the very fresh craters, some of them almost of the same diameter in the lower part. We had Mariner 4, and on the basis of Mariner 4, we predicted tens of thousands of craters over the whole surface of Mars. And I think this fully confirms that the Martian surface resembles that of the Moon very, very much.
While close-up pictures were being taken, half of Pimentel's instruments on Mariner 6 did work and returned some exciting indications.
This is the spectrum that is surely ice. The only question is where is it?
Ice? H2O ice?
Yeah, right.
You really think you got water ice, George?
Pardon me?
You really think
There's no question about it being ice.
In your own words, right now, what is the most single significant thing we've learned? One sentence.
We've learned that Mars' atmosphere is extremely transparent and visible at this time, that the surface has very low contrast, huge numbers of craters, it's very moon-like, and yet there are tantalizing atmospheric effects which show up in...
It's not true. Listen, the way you should answer that question...
I will let you answer.
No, really. You're talking about the photographability of it.
Yeah.
But we have learned now, new scientific information is only two things right at this moment, or possibly three. One of them is this peculiar feature of the South Polar Cap.
I'm getting to that.
Well, no, but that's it. You've got a paragraph in a sentence.
Well,
we have learned the South Polar Cap
Not infinitum.
is not as man has always thought it has been. It is not a continuous blanket of white. Point one. Point two, that there is no blue absorbing matter in the Martian atmosphere.
It's clear that the proper answer to that question is it all depends on whom you ask.
Well, no, I think you're going to get at it.
Okay, now what else looks good?
What else looks good?
The second spacecraft, Mariner 7, finally reports its condition.
That's receiver static phase there. That's good. Pitch position, yaw position, those are good. Both, that's good.
The
News of 7 from NASA Program Manager Bill Cunningham.
7, even with the earlier problems that we had, looks like it's in real good shape. Anticipating a good mission.
The investigators decide to broaden 7's coverage of the great ice cap over the Martian South Pole. Some pictures indicate a haze over the polar cap and dark outcroppings within and along the cap's edge. If the cap proves to be water ice, it could preserve the hope of finding some form of life. If it's CO2, dry ice, Mars is more likely to be a totally desolate planet.
The chance to fly over the South Pole is better in this spacecraft than even the orbiters in 71. I mean, there may not be a chance for a decade in practice to do this again. And so the polar cap may turn out to be the most exciting thing on the planet. It may turn out to be the least exciting. We're going to find out, and that's what's important.
August 4th. Mariner 7 begins its closest approach to Mars. The reason for 7's near loss remains a mystery, but the gas bottles on Pimentel's IRS are still suspected.
No, the JPL people are the ones who think that something went wrong with our gas system. The problem is there's no probable theory as to what could have done what has apparently happened to it. And
Are these all in hand?
So there's a natural tendency to look at our gas bottles because they're capable of doing a lot of damage. But anyway, tonight's the night, and we'll probably be back sometime tomorrow. I suppose the mail's about a foot deep, huh? Well, after Mariner 7 arrival, I may want to go to Russia.
The real moment is when we see what happens when the signal to start cooling down the IRS occurs, right? And we'll see whether the prediction was right.
Gary, according to this, you should be able to see. Hey, we got the line from the external button. According to what Ed
It's time. It's past now. We ought to hear DC 49.
The moment of truth for Pimentel will be when he learns whether or not the two channels of his IRS are cooling. A temperature drop would be the first indication that his bottles were not responsible for Seven's troubles, and that he will indeed get data back.
Number one.
That's number one. That's big news. That's the squibs got current.
Got current?
No. Well, he said
the event. It's just the logic thing that I've gone through.
That event one was squib current. Miles said.
He said current, yeah. Now they're going to say counter, not event.
But there's another interpretation of the data.
We do not see significant effects in normal cycles as we would not expect. We would expect to see disturbances. And you do not. Correct? We do not.
If what? You mean they think it didn't, the bottles didn't go?
That fact, attitude control reports no effect from the pyro event.
That's not nice.
That's what's known as bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's quite readable.
Gas bottles blown down, they have to both be blown down.
Either one blown down. Yeah, that's right. It's consistent with the fact that pyro was moving. But that, when Mariner 7 went through that transient.
In other words, the event one did not mean that squib current flowed.
Right.
If we don't hear something in a couple of minutes, we've had it.
Now, some data indicate that the IRS may be cooling.
I can't stand it.
God, you're testing it.
Whoa! Yes, 3 minutes. 22, 23, 23. What's the IRS? The Channel 1 detector's call that's Getting spectral data on Channel 1 or Channel 2. Minus 480.
move up. No, wait a minute, till I get break. That would be short. Here we go. Come on, George. You can.
Dr. Leighton is seeing close-ups of the South Polar ice cap.
I think we're getting a rather exciting picture being built up here.
That must be a narrow angle picture, and if they can give us all of that, we will indeed be excited. What a view, huh? What a view. What a view. Incidentally, I think a view like that must convince one that that deposit on the polar cap must be more than a fraction of a millimeter or a...
Does it convince you of that? I don't see why I should be convinced. Perhaps...
Well, if it were a very thin layer, would be such that by midday it would be gone. Just as a little frost, morning frost on Earth, dries up and goes away immediately as soon as the sun rises.